If someone missed the video in first parts, then a hint has been made for you in the upper right corner. Griffith took on a new look and became a kind of creature. And right after that, he descends on his wings to Guts and begins to retire with Casca before his eyes. Guts rushed at him, but was grabbed by the hand by one of the monsters, and he had no choice but to hurt his hand to free himself. But having escaped, the swordsman was knocked down by other monsters from which he lost his eyes. Immediately after that, a skull knight runs out of the sun, who was able to break through the crowd of monsters and save Guts and Casca. It turns out that the eclipse looked like a huge storm from the outside, from which a knight ran out and handed over the victims to Rickert. Immediately after that, various monsters began to run out of the storm, which will now fill this world. After 4 days, Guts woke up in a cave near Godot's house, where Rickert came to visit him. First of all, Guts went to Casca, who at that time was at the waterfall, but now she is afraid of him and runs away. Rickert says that she became like this after she woke up after the eclipse, and now she does not recognize anyone, and most likely she has lost her mind. However, Guts cannot believe that this has happened. In a couple of hours, he lost everyone he loved so much, including his beloved. Therefore, in a fit of despair, he runs out into the street and runs away until nightfall. At that moment, whispers began to be heard from everywhere, saying that Guts was the victim. Suddenly, spirits attack him. The Skull Knight comes to his aid and says that the spirits are haunting him because of the mark on his neck received during the eclipse, so Guts now lives between two worlds. After that, Guts takes his sword and with it fights off the attacking spirits. A month later, Guts was able to recover, after which he was about to leave. Before parting, Rickert gave Guts the armor and handed over the prosthesis he had assembled, which can even shoot, and Godot gives Guts a new sword. At this time, Guts began to see a red liquid from the mark, which meant that there was a demonic being nearby. It turns out to be a strange-looking man who found Guts by smell and attacked him, turning into a huge pig-like monster. Guts tries his new equipment on it, but it turns out to be ineffective, so the sword donated earlier simply breaks. The monster throws Guts into the barn, where he finds a huge sword, the Dragon Slayer. A long time ago, the king issued a decree, according to which they should bring him a sword with which to destroy the dragon. Godot decided to accept this challenge, and therefore made the same sword, but it turned out to be too uncomfortable and heavy for the king. However, he was just right for Guts, and with his help, he was able to destroy the monster with one blow. During the farewell, Rickert asks Guts to stay, but he still leaves, saying that the Falcon Squad has not disappeared. Finally, he asked him to take care of Casca, because she is their commander. Meanwhile, a detachment of Knights of the Holy Iron Chain arrived at the place of sacrifice, and Guts comes to a tavern, where the mercenaries mocked the elf pack who worked with them. He dealt with the soldiers only because they prevented him from getting to the bar. At night, duty-bound, Paco found Guts in the forest, as the elf was only able to escape thanks to his intervention. But Guts drives him away, threatening to crush him. During the rain, Guts is met by a priest who offers him a lift, but the swordsman refuses, saying that he is possessed by an evil spirit. The priest insists on his own, saying that God is on his side, and therefore Guts agrees. This was a big mistake, because when Guts fell asleep, he was attacked by an evil spirit that feeds on fear. The priest's daughter got out of the wagon, and at that moment was destroyed by a revived skeleton, of which there was a whole army in this forest. They were brought to life by the demonic power pursuing Guts. The swordsman rushed in to bow, but in the end, the priest was destroyed by his resurrected daughter, and Guts had no choice but to destroy her a second time. In the morning, he is found by the Knights of the Holy Iron Chain. They are ordered to deliver it to the Holy See, but Guts began to fight back. Even being badly wounded, he was able to hold out long enough, but in the end, when trying to take Forneza hostage, he was accidentally defeated. After the battle, he was taken to the camp of the Knights, where Forneza began to interrogate him. She asks him about the Falcon and Griffith squad, but instead of answering, Guts asks if she saw a real god, and not just a figurehead. This infuriates the commander, and she orders her subordinates to imprison him in a cage. Evening falls, and the demons should soon come for Guts, but Puck saves him, bringing a bunch of keys. Now he needs to return his equipment, located in Forneza's tent. He knocks her out and escapes with the girl, taking her hostage. Puck tries to calm her down, saying that Guts, although rude, will not offend her. However, The girl does not notice him, thinking that Guts is talking to himself. Then Puck understands what is happening, and he tells the swordsman that people with a limited perception of the world cannot see and hear the elves. At that moment, the spirits caught up with them and Guts began to defend himself, telling Fornese that these are the miracles that her god sends into this world. The swordsman arrived at the ruins of a mansion, where the horse could no longer gallop. Fornese, out of panic, ran inside, where she met the owner of this mansion, who wants to eat her. Guts finds her and says that his goal is to destroy all the apostles, such as this owner, who no longer looks like a man. During the fight, Puck notices a stuffed girl, which the apostle calls Mistress, which causes the apostle to turn his attention from Guts to him. And Guts, taking the opportunity, wounded the monster in the face, after which he finally destroyed it. And in the morning, Forneso found Serpico and took her to the camp. After a while, Guts has a dream in which they want to burn Casca at the stake. And then, waking up, he sees a strange creature warning him of impending danger. Guts decides to send Goat up to the blacksmith, to whom he left Casca. Arriving, he meets Rickert, his former partner, whom they have not seen since the eclipse. He tells the swordsman that Casca went missing a month ago, but he still couldn't find her. At night, Guts thinks about everything that happened in 2 years and realizes that he himself left her, and she disappeared through his fault. So Guts vows to himself that he will never lose her again. Meanwhile, Rickert repaired Guts' prosthetic arm and Goddard sharpened his sword. In the morning, Guts tells Rickert about the place from his dream, which is provided by the monastery of Street Albion. Rickert says that it is full of heretics, so the Holy Church sent an inquisitor there, and now a witch trial will take place there. Meanwhile, the Knights of the Holy Iron Chain escort Inquisitor Mosgus to Albion. On the way to the city, they were attacked by residents who wanted to take revenge on Mosgus for the fact that he sentenced their family members to go to another world. But the attack was unsuccessful, and all the attackers were captured by his executioners, after which they were executed in a demonstrative manner. Casca meets Luke and takes him away. At this time, the city, lying on the way to Albion, is attacked by Kushan scouts, who destroy all the guards of the city. Guts appears before them, whom the warriors instantly attack and are instantly destroyed. In the meantime, Luca has taken Casca in with her and named her Elaine. And it turns out that she, like many girls here, works as a girl of easy virtue. She wrapped Elaine in bandages to hide her beauty from the rest, thus protecting her, because otherwise she could become a victim for robbers. Elaine is also taken care of by Nina, Luca's friend. In the evening, Guts is overtaken by the guy that the swordsman saved in the tavern from the beginning of the AniMap. His name is Ishidoro, and he admires Guts' sword skills. Guts warns Ishidoro that he'd better stay away from him as night is approaching and the spirits will come for him soon. After dealing with the spirits, Guts met the Skull Knight, who saved him during the eclipse. The knight warns that one of the apostles is nearby, and maybe even their primary source. The knight also says that a shining falcon appeared to many people in dreams, and soon a person personifying a falcon will appear in this world, and what happened during the eclipse will be repeated. At night, it turns out that Nana belongs to the cult of the Goat's Head and participates in the pleasures of heretics. Since Casca constantly follows Nina, she was noticed by occultists who wanted to retire with her. But some of them were destroyed by the evil spirits that inhabited them, and Casca herself was protected by her child. The remaining occultists recognized her as a witch and bowed before her. Now that people knew about Casca's power, it was not safe to stay here, because at any moment she could be reported to the Inquisitor. Meanwhile, Luca's girlfriend Pippi is suspected of witchcraft, and the knights are going to hand her over to the court. Luca rushes to the defense, but the leader of the knights says that if she does not back down, then she will be taken too. The commander has already swung his tail at the girls, but Guts appears, who grabbed him and began to ask about the girl with the brand, after which he destroyed him. Luca heard Guts' words and decided to help him by taking him to the tent, but when they arrived at the place, they did not find anyone, because Nina took Casca with her. Running out of the camp, the girls are found by the occultists, who forcefully take them with them. At this time, Fornese received information about the arrival of the Black Swordsman in the city, as well as about the cult of the Goat's Head. Meanwhile, the occultists are conducting a ritual where they make their priestess out of Casca, and Nina is going to be sacrificed. But their plan is thwarted by Ishidoro, who starts throwing stones at them, distracting them. At this time, a red liquid begins to ooze from Casca's brand, and demon heads begin to appear from the ceiling of the cave and take over the bodies of heretics. Also, the army of the Holy Iron Chain had already approached the entrance of the cave, which was attacked by heretics captured by demons. In addition, the local deity, the goat, was also captured by the demon, who grabbed Casca and was about to retire with her. But this was prevented by Guts, who arrived in time, who was able to injure his hand. Fornesa orders everyone to be destroyed, including Guts, who sent Ishidoro along with Casca and Nina to the exit, while he himself fights the goat. During a difficult battle, Guts was able to neutralize him with the help of a special weapon that God had made for him. Then he went after the girls and Ishidoro. In the meantime, they reached the end of the trail, where Casca and Nina were grabbed while Ishidoro lowered them on a rope. They were taken to the dungeon in the Tower of Conviction, and at night, Guts, along with Luca and Ishidoro, went to their rescue. At this time, the executioners took Nina and took her to the torture chamber for interrogation, where she said that Casca was a witch. Meanwhile, Fornesa reports to Mozgus about what happened in the cave and about the Black Swordsman. Mozgus decides to imprison Casca in an Iron Maiden, but at this moment, demons are released from it and seize the premises, after which they begin to eat people. At this time, Guts penetrates the tower, after which he kidnaps Fornese and forces him to take him to Casca. Guts finds Puck, who reveals that the demons consumed Casca and left, but despite this, she is fine. The swordsman releases Fornesa, but she decides to stay with him. Only now she was able to see the world as it really is, throwing all the nonsense about God out of her head. Meanwhile, Luca, Ishidoro, and her friend Geron rescue Nina, after which they go in search of Casca. They go up to the room in which Mozgus and his executioners are hiding from the demons and find themselves squeezed by demons from both sides. But suddenly, Mozgus gains divine power, allowing him to emit flames from his mouth, with which he attacks the demons. He takes Casca with him and says that this power is a real miracle given to him by God, and that now he must burn the witch at the stake. Due to the executioner's attack, Luca flew out of the tower, but was saved by the Skull Knight, who is chasing an egg-like creature. Meanwhile, Guts reached the room and rushed at Mozgus, but at that moment, he and the executioners grew angel wings. Luke woke up underground next to the Apostle, who was being chased by the Skull Knight. He says that long ago he was buried in a pit under a mountain of the dead, and then a behelit fell into his hands, and with his help he was able to call on 5 angels, that is, the apostles, who told him about the current world and about the fact that they are able to fulfill any of his desires. Then he realized that this world is full of despair and pain, and his desire was to create an ideal world that would hatch from it. He does not plan to take revenge on anyone. All he wants is to give salvation to people by giving them a real God. It is this creature that is responsible for all the strange things that happen in this place, including the acquisition of new powers by Mozgus and his executioners. The Skull Knight intervened and attacked the creature, but failed to injure it. Then he pulled Luke to the surface, where the demons had already merged into one big monster. The knight realized that the time for the coming eclipse had almost come, after which he took the girl with him and took her to a safe place. Meanwhile, Mozgus' executioners grabbed Guts and were about to destroy him, but the swordsman managed to use the weapon in his hand. With her help, he was able to defeat the strongest of them and freed himself from the neck trap, after which he dealt with all the rest. At this time, that huge demon started to attack the refugees, but was stopped by the fiery breath of Mozgus, who escaped from Guts and is now preparing to burn Casca. The Skull Knight took Luke to a safe place, and now, like during the eclipse 2 years ago, he will have to fight Zod. Meanwhile, Casca was tied to a post and set on fire, but she was saved by Ishidoro, who jumped down from the tower to her, then climbed up with a rope. Mozgus did not leave it so easily and climbed the tower, where Guts attacked him and pierced the priest with his sword. However, despite this, the priest did not go to another world, but instead took on a completely new look and was covered with armor that even Guts' sword could not penetrate. Mozgus decided to attack Guts with fire breath, which the swordsman used to gag him with his sword. But even this did not help, because Mozgus was able to stop the sword, after which he dealt several serious blows to the swordsman. Standing close, Guts noticed a wound on him, which he managed to install when the priest was still a man. He threw one of his bombs at her, and when the priest tried to use his fiery breath, he was hit by an explosion and destroyed. And having lost their priest, The remaining people at the foot of the tower were swallowed up by a demon. At this moment, Ishidoro notices that this creature is afraid of fire. And then Guts gives everyone a torch and says that they need to hold out on the street until dawn, because if they go to the tower, then the sunlight will not save them. From these words, Forneza, who until recently wanted to destroy Guts, begins to admire his strength and confidence. Meanwhile, Pac realized that this creature is made up of the souls of those who have gone to another world in this place from torture or an epidemic, and the marks of Guts and Casca served as a catalyst for its creation. As Guts said, the tower turned out to be the most unsafe place, and it was destroyed by a creature that took the form of a god's hand, as in the eclipse 2 years ago. At its very top, the egg-shaped being begins to reincarnate, using the liquid-like being as material. As a result, it reincarnates into a new being. Dawn breaks, and the Cushion army comes to the ruins of the tower, attacking the Guts squad. But the squad is safe thanks to the intervention of Zod, who scared away all the Cushions, which the squad took advantage of to escape. Just then, Guts notices the Skull Knight pointing at a light in the distance, and this light turns out to be Griffith, reborn from an egg-shaped creature. Zod bowed before him, after which he dealt with the people who attacked Griffith and then carried him away. If you want to continue, then write about it in the comments. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, like and press the bell so as not to miss new videos. AniMap was with you. Bye everyone.